Colonel Philip Shue dies in a car accident, and his body bears marks of fresh yet unrelated mutilation. However, there's no concrete evidence pointing towards homicide. A bizarre suicide or an exceedingly clean murder? Yesterday, I took a deep dive on an Air Force Colonel Philip Shue, staff psychiatrist, who died in a car crash, car driven into a tree, resulting in a traumatic head injury and death on the spot, in 2003. What first appeared to be a tragic accident, quickly turned out to be a very, very weird case. Why? Shue was found with tape wrapped around each wrist and on top of each boot, adhered to the pant legs, with a few inches of it hanging loosely. More horrifyingly, both of his nipples were cut off along with their areolas, in a rather clean manner, though one with, apparently, more precision, and he had an incision in the middle of the chest. His left pinky finger was also cut off. Furthermore, examination of his underwear and genital area showed that he must have been wearing a diaper at some point before the accident, as proved by fiber and gel residue on his underwear and scrotum, usually found in diapers, and a tab with cartoon moon and sun found in his undershorts. I found no further comment or information on this other than the original autopsy, so there's no saying why he wore a diaper in the first place. He was in good physical health, so had no need of it as far as that's concerned. Possibly, and that's just my theory, he wore it or had it put on for the duration of inflicting injuries, in case his bladder would let loose due to pain. At the same time, the aspect of pain was of little concern due to the below information. Lidocaine, a local anesthetic, was found in his system. Since Shue worked as a staff psychiatrist at Wilford Hall Medical Center at the time of his death, he could have had an easy access to the drug and did, in fact, prescribe himself lidocaine cream for unrelated skin issue on his chest a few days prior. That being said, the concentration of the drug in his blood was higher than would be expected from topical administration alone, yet not high enough to cause mental deterioration, as noted by the autopsy, which implies he might have, or have been, injected with the drug in the chest area despite the lack of needle marks on his body. The explanation provided in the autopsy suggests that if he injected himself in the chest, where, indeed, most of his wounds were, further incisions he made, or that had been made to him, would cover the needle marks. In his car, a few objects of interest had been found. A working cell phone, no calls prior to the accident took place. However, a witness who took the phone out just after the accident reported it was a flip phone with blood on the inside, which might have indicated an attempt by Shue to use it after collision. A package of unopened gauge needles. $47 in one of Shue's pockets, but no wallet. 2 small pocket knives. Latex glove, appearing to never have been worn but covered in blood, same as his steering wheel, and one of the knives. A Swiss Army knife. Additional notes from the scene were as follows. No blood found on the scene belonged to anyone but Shue. There were no fingerprints on the duct tape, either his or anyone else's. The weapon used to inflict the injuries was not found in the car. Some of those findings quickly devolved into theories of Shue having been abducted and tortured but miraculously escaping in his car before losing the control of the vehicle and dying in an accident. There are some information to support this angle. Most importantly, the apparent death threats that he's been getting for 3 years before his demise. His ex-wife, with whom he was not on the best terms, had a life insurance that she'd greatly benefit from should Shue perish. Additionally, the lack of weapon and fingerprints suggested a carefully orchestrated assault that must have taken place outside of the vehicle, and all tools used were discarded and never found. This would also, at a first glance, line up with a tragic car accident. After all, if one was escaping his captors after having been tortured, we might expect they'd not be in the best headspace to drive. The bloody phone would also be an indicator of Shue wanting to call someone for help after driving into the tree, though this is a loose category, considering the information on blood inside it came from a witness who tampered with the scene. Other than the immediate death scene, Shue had also been reported to have been in good spirits preceding his death. His psychiatrist had been under the impression Shue's mental condition had been steadily improving. To add to that, his and his wife's offer on a new house had been accepted, and he was offered a forensic psychology fellowship that'd ensure employment after his upcoming retirement from the Air Force. Regardless, a suicide angle makes, surprisingly, even more sense. First off, none of the threats Shue had received have ever been reported to the police, nor even shown to the people closest to him like his wife. In fact, the whole ordeal that led to threats had been bizarre, at best. Apparently, while studying in a library, late 1999, Shue went to the toilet and, upon returning, found his laptop missing. He reported theft to the police, but the laptop was subsequently returned to him, placed on the roof of his car, alas with his hard drive wiped and a threat of harm to those around him attached. Worthy of note is how the only copy of his thesis was wiped along with the hard drive, which could potentially suggest someone wanting to harm his career. Shue did not report those threats, as aforementioned, because, apparently, he was instructed not to by those leaving them. We only know of this situation because Shue shared the information, without physical proof, with his psychiatrist. As for the psychiatrist, Shue has been treated with various medications for psychiatric issues over the course of a few years preceding his death, as he had suffered from severe anxiety and, as noted by his doctor, paranoia. Interestingly, Shue himself sensed what his doctor thought and mentioned that he knew he sounded paranoid, but what he said was true. Nevertheless, at the time of death, he has been on a prescription of clonazepam and venlafaxine. However, only the former showed up in the toxicology report. The latter was not present in his blood, which indicated he had stopped taking his medication days prior to his death, without consulting his doctor. The psychiatric issues he has been experiencing for years, along with a sudden and uncontrolled putting off his meds, which do increase the anxiety and suicidal thoughts if one suddenly stops taking them, do lead credence to the suicide theory. Furthermore, the witnesses to his car accident provided accounts that suggest Shue had the control of his vehicle, as implied by him having done a difficult road maneuver before driving a car into the tree, at least up until taking a sharp turn towards his final, and tragic, destination. Furthermore, no brake lights were on as he approached the tree at increasing speed, 60 to 65 miles per hour. It is, of course, possible that the lights were on, but simply no witness observed them. The psychological autopsy implies that he also passed a police patrol on his way, which, if he was previously abducted and capable of driving a car, would surely get his attention. The same autopsy also suggests that the lack of strong evidence pointing to homicide doesn't mean Shue directly intended to take his life. It is possible the self-mutilation and driving into the tree were meant to injure but not kill him, or that they were, actually, unrelated. After all, it has been proven that his pre-car crash injuries, while ghoulish, weren't severe enough to cause intense bleeding and deteriorate his health, killing him behind the wheel or even leading to the accident, in as far as physical not mental condition is concerned, of course. It could be that he was experiencing a psychotic episode and momentarily regained full sanity while already in a car, which scared him and led to the tragic accident. At the same time, the two could be an exceedingly strange plan to kill himself, full stop. Regardless of both the physical and psychological autopsy ruling Shue's case a suicide, there are aspects to the ordeal that make many wonder what had actually occurred. Did Shue mutilate himself and then committed suicide? Did he intend to kill himself via the mutilation but, when it failed, drove the car into the tree? Did he intend for the crash to kill him or simply injure him? Or was he, despite the evidence pointing elsewhere, tortured, mutilation, and then died tragically as an indirect effect of it?